Welcome to the 18th Annual Tallgrass Film Festival. Thank you for joining us. We thank our sponsors, and we have some very special guests today. One of the documentary features at the festival this year is a feature on Doc Severensin, the well-known band leader from The Tonight Show for many, many years, and a musician in his own right, which you already know if you've seen the film. If you haven't seen the film and you've never heard of Doc Severensin, he was really, sorry, Kevin?
See the
We're
film
in
first
trouble.
before you watch this.
He was a part of the culture in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, I guess, until The Tonight Show went off the air in the early 90s. And as you've seen in the film, or if not, you will. Today we have with us Doc Severensin and the makers of the film, including Kevin Bright, who was an executive producer and co-director on the film. He was the EP and director also of Friends for over 50 episodes, including the 10 season finales. He's also produced other documentaries. We also have the co-director, Jeff Concilio, who has worked as a director, producer, and editor for over 30 years and edited the Oscar-winning film Innocente from 2013, which won for Best Documentary Short Subject. And we also have Ariana Garfinkel, who was one of the producers on the film and has also produced other films such as Best and Most Beautiful Things and Boys of Summer. So I'm really excited to have this conversation because I did just see the film yesterday and enjoyed it. And you know, the first thing I thought, I guess, as a filmmaker was, and other filmmakers will appreciate this, this film would have cost $10 million if they'd paid NBC for the rights to all that footage. Because I made a
Very astute observation.
I made a doc which was in the festival last year called What She Said, The Art of Pauline Kael. And I think I used a 15-second clip of the author of The Exorcist talking about Pauline Kael, and that cost me a lot of money. So I want to get to that a little later, though. But really what I want to know initially is, what was the spark in making the film? And anybody can jump in with this. And what was the connection to Doc Severensin?
Well, Doc and I are kind of joined at the hip through my dad. My dad was Jackie Bright, and he was a double-talking stand-up comedian. And in our house, The Tonight Show was a religion. And it was on every single night of the week, Monday through Friday. And as I got older, I would be sneaking around the corner when The Tonight Show was on, or I had this periscope, some spy periscope I used to put around the corner and watch my dad. And then ultimately, my dad made 2 guest appearances on The Tonight Show. So Doc and I have always been joined, whether we knew it or not, and it got solidified at a friend's retirement party when I ran into his daughter, Nancy, who I hadn't seen in a long time. And I hadn't heard anything about Doc in a long time. So I gingerly asked the question, how's Dad doing? And she said, he's doing great. And then kind of realizing how old Doc must be at this point. He had to be 90. And so I said, he's not still playing the trumpet, is he? She goes, he sure is. He's got 4 gigs in the next 3 months. So that said to me, the connection was meant to be. It came full circle, and I needed to make this film.
Great. And Jeff and Ariana, did you come along through Kevin, or how did you guys get involved?
Yeah, Kevin said, "Hey, I got a great documentary we got to make. It's going to be really easy, super fast. Doc Severensin, we got to do it. We can do it this way. We can make it
be
like
a short film. We're going to do 20
be a
minutes.
short doc." Yeah, as a filmmaker, Rob, we were thinking maybe Doc would record a new album, put him in the studio, and then have clips of the Tonight Show. It'd be a lovely portrait. And then we found out how much this guy tours, and so Kevin said, "We're going on the road." And all of a sudden, we went on the road for close to a year with this wonderful man. And Ariana is the one who had, again, you're a filmmaker, so you understand you don't just make a decision like that and do it. First of all, somebody's got to facilitate it, and then someone's got to put the machine together to do it, and that was Ariana.
Mm-hmm. Well, we were lucky that Doc let us come along and trusted Kevin and Jeff. And so we just, as you mentioned, sometimes a film has a lot of archival, sometimes it has a lot of production. We ended up doing both because Doc had so much amazing footage from the past and so many incredible things going on in the present that we just had to keep going. So yes, it was wonderful. It was really a special experience, I think, for everybody.
Great. Well, one of the things I really liked about the film is the scope of Doc's life that you presented. I mean, obviously, we're going to see, when we know we're going to see a documentary about a famous figure, we're going to see a lot of archival, but we're never sure, are we going to see, the real person as he is today? And I really enjoyed the scenes of Doc with his partner, and also talking about, his relationships with his first wife and second wife and his children. And Doc, I'm wondering from you, did you approach this with some hesitation about opening up yourself and your life to the filmmakers?
I didn't at first, but then it dawned on me one day, wow, we could have a lot of people showing up here that I hope it works out. And it turns out, from all I can figure out, that they were glad to be a part of it and very loving, supportive. But could I say hello right now to some friends up in Northwest Kansas, in the town of Clay Center? That's my second home.
Okay. Well, we'll have to make sure that they watch this, because we are recording, but yeah, I hope they do watch. Doc, so you, first of all, I have to say to people who haven't seen the film, Doc, you are 93, is that right?
Right.
You're 93. So we should all look so good and be so active at 93. And Doc Severensin is, as I'm sure, heard this many times over. But as far as the film goes, we know that you were touring right up until at least the virus. Is that right? And performing?
Yes. And I'm looking forward to doing some more.
That's great. Do you have dates planned yet?
I only have one worry, and that is, am I going to have enough time to ride horses? That's a big deal.
Doc has a Mustang fantasy.
Well,
yeah,
it's going to be a fantasy come true.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, it is true, because there's a scene in the film where you are out of the hospital from pneumonia and you get up on the saddle.
Yeah, sure.
5 weeks from pneumonia, up on a horse in the freezing cold December morning.
Yeah.
Everything we did with this guy was humbling.
I'll tell you one thing. I didn't realize how sick I was, or I wouldn't have been up there. But, it gave me pause when I realized, boy, I was a lot sicker than I realized. But when you guys showed up at the hospital, what am I going to do? Just lay there? I don't know.
Doc.
Well, Doc, are you doing okay these days?
Absolutely.
That's good to hear. Well, and playing the trumpet.
Just in case.
There we go. There we go. I think you might blow out the microphone if you did it from your
Well,
seat there.
but Kathy plays the trumpet too. And she was the trumpet teacher at the University of Tennessee for, what was it? 39 years.
Wow.
So we have a lot of trumpets around the house, and they get played quite regularly.
That's great. Well, I did learn that from the film, that your partner is a musician also, and I think that also answers one of my questions, which is why did you move to Tennessee? And obviously, it was her connection to the state.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
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 Otherwise, you wouldn't find Doc in Knoxville. There has to be love.
Actually, I came here to see if Elvis was still alive.
Okay. So a filmmaking question. You know, one of the things I really like about the movie is the way you do move between the personal scenes, the verite scenes with Doc, and the archival, and show the history of his life, and really some very nice editing, because you know it moves so smoothly that I think, you know, an average viewer might not realize that I think music is probably in about 85% of the movie. And you know, you did some very nice rhythmic editing, which really makes the film flow, and some of the accents and beats that you know were really nice touches. So bravo for that, and to
Well,
your
thank
editor.
you. Thank you for that. We'll pass that along to Brad Allgood, our editor. He spent a lot of time sitting at the machine in cowboy boots with his dog by his side, which is the only way to edit a Doc Severensin film.
And you also identified the other folly of the film, Rob, which was at a certain point, once I had done all my research on Doc, I realized he had over 50 albums. And so I said to Brad, I said, listen, Doc has over 50 albums. There's absolutely no reason 1 second of this film should be scored by anything other than Doc Severensin music. And it wasn't until I got the bill for that I realized what I'd really asked for. But
that's the one reason.
Thank God for co-producer and daughter Nancy Severensin, who is a professional music clearance person.
Ah.
And she brought the world down to a point of reality for us of being able to make it happen. And the same thing goes for what you said earlier about the archival footage. The unsung hero of this film is Jeff Sotzig. He's Johnny Carson's nephew and current president of Carson Productions. And when we went to him and showed him the movie and showed him what we did with Doc and the footage, he was very generous. That's all I want to say. He was extremely generous and supported the film in a way that it never would have been possible without his support.
And
That's
not
great.
for us. He did it for Doc. Everywhere we went, we'll say,
Yeah.
for Doc, I'll do it. For Doc, yes. You know, it's extraordinary how many doors open for him.
Yeah.
Terrific. Well, what was the span of the making of the film? From the first day you had the idea and reached out maybe to Doc to see what he thought of the idea, to actually locking your cut?
Go ahead, Jeff.
A little over a year and a half. It was very fast.
That's all. Wow.
Very quick. And part of that was because as soon as first Kevin said, let's go. So we went and did the first day of production. And then we found out that Doc was going on the road, and all of a sudden we had no time to waste. So production just ramped up in order to meet Doc's schedule. That shoved us like a rocket ship through production pretty fast. So if it hadn't been for that, we could have spent 3 years on it like most films.
Yeah. And after we had shot quite a bit, we realized that a big chunk of the film was missing. And we needed to go to Mexico, to San Miguel, to get that chunk of the film. So that was at a later stage of realizing that, you know, the story was not complete without Emily. So she was very gracious and It was also our introduction to the San Miguel Five without Doc.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed those scenes with Emily. That's your second wife, Doc. Is that right?
Oh, let me think a minute.
She was the third.
No,
Second
you're
or
not
third,
Richard
I
Burke. It's
don't
not
know.
that bad.
Yvonne was two. Yvonne was the second. Emily was the third.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
I'll go with that.
I enjoyed seeing her paintings in the background, and I can tell you photographed it to really kind of show them off. I mean, she's really talented in her own right, and
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
you know, it was nice to see that. Um, so, Doc, I wanted to ask you about you know, you said something in the film that, you know, was kind of moving, is that after Johnny died, you said, you know, you would ask, there were times in your life where you were stuck, and you would say to yourself, well, what would Johnny do? You know, there were stories that Johnny Carson could be a very difficult person off stage. So, you know, I'm wondering, first of all, were you social with him? From watching the film, it sounds like you weren't that social off camera, but was he the kind of friend that to you and you to him, that you could share that kind of a bond and look to each other for help or advice?
Absolutely. It, and that part of it, in a way, came as a surprise, because during the years that we were filming the show every night, well, when we got through, we went home and had a sandwich and went to bed and came back the next day. And there wasn't time for that. But one thing I found out, if you needed help, Johnny was there. He was, he could be very, I wouldn't say strict, but, and I have a very nice relationship with his boys too.
Yeah, yeah. Would you?
It went farther than just Johnny and me.
I see. Would you be a guest at his house occasionally, or he at yours ever, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
Except for Thanksgiving.
Right.
Yeah. You know, I never did get that turkey from.
Mm. It's amazing how quick you
Okay,
all.
wait a minute. Don't go by
Okay.
that so fast. That thing, a lot of people thought that it was planned, you know, and it was set up, and the Thanksgiving deal.
Mm-hmm. In the film.
And it wasn't. It was actually on Thanksgiving, and I was desperately sad and lonely, and we had a little exchange there in the beginning of it that was kind of proof of all of that.
Yeah, and one of the things, you know, when you've gone through the footage like Jeff and I and Brad have, you see the relationship in a different way. Because when you think about it, you know, you ask, did they have a relationship outside? Well, the truth of the matter is, Monday through Friday, Doc and Johnny spent more time with each other than any of their family, any of their wives, you know. I mean, that was their commitment to each other. So it was like having the relationship on the outside, in a way, was almost a bonus. And, you know, he's spending so much time and has such a deeper relationship with Johnny because of that show, the shared experience of that show. So I think, you know, in a lifetime of 30 years, we'd be shocked at the number of hours that Doc spent with Johnny Carson.
I will tell you this, that if you had an emergency thing that happened in your life, you didn't have to wonder, should I call Johnny? Do you think he could help out with this? He was on it. He was for real. But and when he died, I'm going to tell you, I shed a lot of salty tears, and it was all, I was by myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't doing it for anybody, but
But you had your trumpet, Doc. You had your trumpet. You had your trumpet to step in.
Yeah.
That's right. The jealous mistress came around and filled the slot for you after Johnny died, right?
Yeah, she's been very handy many times, and I think it was Emily that called that to my attention.
Yeah.
So,
I think so too.
You don't tell Picasso to put the brush down.
I know, one of my favorite lines.
So, Doc, one of the real kind of the middle act of the movie is your after you retired from the Tonight Show or stopped working there, you went, you immediately kept working and went off and really began a whole nother life as a touring artist with your band. At that time, I guess it was mostly big band music. And we also hear from your ex-wife on, how she obviously felt maybe ignored a little bit because you were on the road so much. But I'm wondering, were those years that you were really touring all over the place and playing, did you ever have any feeling of, well, I could retire now if I wanted to and kind of start a whole different thing, writing music or doing something different? Was that ever something in your head?
No, it wasn't. Because did I just say the trumpet is a jealous?
Right.
And even if you don't have a gig for 2 weeks, then you got to make up for it by playing at home and getting your material ready and keep your chops together. It's the life of a trumpet player is pretty lonely. And if you don't think so, ask their families.
Yeah.
I would frequently, when I could get all 5 of my kids together, I'd say, kids, I'm going to ask you this one more time now. Am I away too much? Do you want me to stop? No, Dad. No. Yeah, we'd like to see more of you, but we understand. And so, it all worked out.
Rob, you understand when you hang out with Doc enough that he just doesn't play the trumpet. He's in love with the trumpet. I mean, he's literally in love with the instrument. It has carved a path for his entire life. And, you see it in the film, the practicing, the commitment, it's just tremendous. So I think when you observe that and realize, we thought we were making a film about a musician. No, we were making a film about a guy who was in love with his instrument. And that sounds terrible when I say it that way, but in love with the trumpet and his commitment to that art, to that talent is all encompassing. It's all in for Doc. There's no such thing as missing a day of practice or not being prepared for a performance.
Right.
There's more to it than just playing it. Early on, I wanted a particular kind of a trumpet, and I found out the only way I could get it is if I got with a manufacturer and showed them exactly what I wanted. And from then on, I had, it was nothing but trumpets. And I'm still doing that.
That's great. And to me, what's also amazing is the physical effort that you had to put in to keep up your chops. And there's that wonderful scene with the blind boy who is learning trumpet, and you're showing him, you're having him feel your stomach, your core muscles, and it kind of seemed to turn on a light for him in a way. Is that something you have done much of in the past, is helping other people who are learning the instrument?
Well, yeah, I don't advertise it, but I'm available if somebody wants to. And it usually happens in a very, it just happens.
Yeah.
There's no making plans about it.
Doc is being humble. The truth of the matter is, going back way to the beginning, Doc was committed to not only the furthering of the trumpet, but the education to young trumpet players, to passing down what he had learned from life lessons and trumpet lessons all in one shot. And you see that a little bit in the film, but what may not have stuck is literally Doc has done thousands of master classes and performances at high schools and colleges all over the country. So his commitment to education has been consistent throughout his entire career.
That's
yeah,
great.
Rob, there's we do one master class in the film. And when we were in the edit room and we cut that scene, we just put up a tent title that said masterclass number. And, Brad and I looked at each other like, I don't know, maybe it's probably 500 or something. So let's just put 500 and we'll ask Doc and Kathy. And then we asked Doc and Kathy and they said, oh, it's in the many tens of thousands. We said, many, how is that possible? And they enumerated it. They talked about how often throughout the year, every year, he could do a master class. So it's literally in the tens of thousands of times that he has stood in front of a class. And you see that reaction with those students. It's genuine every time, even without our camera rolling. These guys and gals were chasing him down in the hallways to get more information out of him.
Wow.
The Michael Jordan of the trumpet. What more can you say?
So during the filming, were there any things that really were huge challenges or unexpected things that happened during the shooting and that, might have been difficult to overcome, or where you had to kind of make a decision, we're going to do something different?
Well, I think the biggest curveball was, and again, this is for the audiences that have seen the film already, was Doc getting sick. Because we were literally flying to film with him again. We were all set. We had plane tickets and everything. And it was the night before our plane flights that we had to pull the plug because Doc was going into the hospital. And it took us half of a day to discuss this and realize we have to go. We have to somehow go. We had to radically shift that. And that's a story in and of itself because things are all down. We went with one cameraman and a sound man, and Kevin went. I didn't go. And man, they had
and we missed our flight at the airport, Jeff.
Nancy
and I missed the flight, so we ended up getting Doc's in the hospital. We're worried enough as it is, and we miss our flight. So the thing that twice. Oh, that's right. Oh God. So the thing about that scene that you should know, and I'm glad you called some attention to that scene. When I got there with the cameraman, Doc in no uncertain terms says, "You're not filming this. You're not filming today." And, I had to listen to him at that point, and I asked the camera person to leave the room. And he went away, and Doc and I just started talking casually. And there was part of the conversation where Doc had his eyes closed when he was talking to me. And at that point, I took out my phone and I started filming because I decided that I'm going to respect his wishes in the end if he doesn't want it in, but I can't miss this moment. The things that he was saying and what this moment could have meant. Who knew what was going to happen to Doc at that point? I was scared. I admit. And so I shot the majority of that scene by myself on my phone. And then finally our cameraman came into the room later on. And by that point, Doc had accepted the filming going on. And I promised him that if he didn't like it when it was cut together, that we would take it out of the film. So that is Doc at his most vulnerable, really sharing with the audience in total honesty what was going on in that moment. And I thank you, Doc, for trusting me.
I'm just glad to be alive.
So are we.
Doc, have you made any plans yet for concerts after things open up from the virus?
Well, every day I think about things I want to do. Some things I really need to do. And that will include, going and working with young people and, on behalf of the horn company, taking my horn and showing it to people. And, but working with the kids that come up and say, can I ask you a question? And, I'm always glad because it means I'm going to learn something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I think I get wild pipe dreams. And Kevin, sometimes I think I got to talk to Kevin about this. See what he thinks. And then when I come to my senses, I say, boy, am I glad I didn't go to him about it, because he would have been, trying to help me figure it out. And it's something that was a nice idea in passing, but let it pass.
But one thing we have realized, Doc, during these pandemic times is for all the places that you played in your career, you've never played a drive-in. And that may be the goal now of what we have to do is a drive-in movie theater is the only place performances are happening these days. So you may have to finally
that's
play
a good idea.
Well, just let me say this. You get me to a drive-in theater, and the Trumpet is not what I'm taking with me.
Okay, popcorn?
No popcorn.
Maybe a lady?
I think Doc's ready for anything, but the people that love him are not letting him out quite yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're happy that we have these virtual opportunities to connect, to bring the film into the world, and to just let people have at least these moments with Doc, I think, are still
Sure.
valuable.
Well, I would think also, sorry, go ahead, Doc.
Well, yeah, before I forget it, I forgot it. And that is that you get ideas that come to you. They're sort of transient. And if you don't grab a hold of it and say, I got to see you later, then you can let it go. But I have an ongoing discomfort with the fact that the big band era was so gigantic, so huge. It came along with the Second World War, and people have forgotten how hugely popular the big bands were. And there were all kinds. There were the red hot jazz guys. Then there were all different. And I've been reading a book on Louis Armstrong, and the Black community at the time that Louis was just beginning to be known to people, a lot of the Black musicians, the guy that they appreciated the most was Guy Lombardo.
Wow.
And they wanted to have that kind of an organization, with the saxes all playing chords, and there are a lot of things like that need to be shown. And one of the most prevalent kinds of music in schools today are the big bands. People say the big bands are dead. Well, there are hundreds of thousands of kids across the United States that would disagree with that very much.
Bands. Right.
And when I've been able to get together certain instrumentalists and then get some kids into school. So I got a mixture of my guys and the kids from the school. I want to tell you, those are moments that I wouldn't trade for anything.
That's nice. I also really liked the San Miguel group that you were performing with before the virus hit.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah,
because
Right.
I enjoyed that more than the big band stuff.
Well,
Great.
that's that. You have a right, you know. And here I am. I'm headed to Mexico, and I told somebody. I said I still want to play some jazz, but I don't know who those people are going to be, but I'm going to keep my eyes up. When I get to San Miguel, the first night I went out to dinner, we couldn't cook at home yet, so I'm in this very large place, and there's a trio playing, and I was transfixed. They obviously had worked together for a long, long time. And I went up and tried to introduce myself, but there was only one guy that knew who I was. And then they kind of, Heel's wife said, "Oh yeah, he's well known in the States. And he does big band music." And so they asked me, "Well, come on down and sit in." And I've always wanted to enlarge that to include some different kinds of jazz with a big band.
Yeah.
And historic things, like down to how jazz music started with just one or two guys under a street light, a gas light down in New Orleans, one playing a clarinet and the other one playing voice tub drums, you know?
Right.
And people, there's such a rich history for all of that.
True enough. We're getting down to the end of our time, but I had a couple of quick questions I wanted to follow up with.
I'm not ready to stop yet.
Getting a little taste of what it's like working with Doc Severensin. This is what our filming days
I wish we could go longer. I wanted to ask the NBC question. Did you get a deal on the rights for using all the Tonight Show material?
So as I said before, that material is owned by Carson Productions.
Oh, I see. Right.
And Donnie's nephew, Jeff Sotzig, was the one who was responsible. Once he saw the film, he was extremely generous, and he made the film happen.
I see.
It would not have happened without his generosity.
I got to tell you something that's mind-boggling. Jeff made sure when he came to the show, and it was when we moved to California, we had a hell of a big band. And we played from the time we got there all day long, and all of the station breaks. Jeff just had them keep the machines rolling, and he has all of that material. And there are some moments there that are really something.
For the 20-minute,
I don't know what he's ever going to do with it, but
I bet. Well, it is amazing to see, and also to see how quick-witted you all were. And sometimes you read or hear some of these jokes that you did live during the show, and you think, was that written ahead of time? I don't know, but you and Tommy Newsom.
I can tell you what the answer to that is. The answer is no.
That's great to hear.
Always.
Johnny Carson, when he felt like it could just like putting a rug out to walk over and come here and tell me what you were going to say, you know, and he could set it up for you. But one thing that was, for instance, was just, it happened in the moment. it was when we discussed Thanksgiving, and I was truly lonely. I mean, I was all alone, and Johnny said something, and I said something, and none of it was planned.
Yeah, that
I
was
mean,
in the film. Yeah, we enjoyed that. We are getting close, but I just wanted to ask, how can people see this going forward? Do you have distribution yet, or are you looking for it, or?
We do have a wide distribution coming next year. We can't quite announce yet, but right now we're doing festivals state by state. So you can follow Doc's social media. If you go to DocSeverensin.com, you can follow him on all of his platforms, and we make all the announcements there, and you can see the film in your state, or even bring it to your school or to your organization. We'd love to hear from anybody.
That's great. I'm sure you'll get a lot of interest. And for people watching, don't forget to share this video at Tallgrass Film and hashtag Tallgrass 2020. And I really want to thank you all for doing this today, and especially Doc for sharing your life with the audience, and just to wish you and all of you all the best, and many more productive, creative years, and lots of love.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.